Hello, I'm really glad to see you. We're doing a series about thriving with chronic illnesses. The first video was last week. I talked about having fun as part of this whole thing of thriving. And I know that fun is the last thing a lot of us think we have the time or the energy for or the right to, but it is such an important part of, yes, thriving, but also the part that we're going to talk about today, which is budgeting your time and energy, knowing how to handle your life when you have more to do than you have capacity to do it. And the reason I bring up the fun is because having an emphasis on that in your life, that you deserve fun and that you're going to pursue fun, it creates more capacity. Not necessarily physically, but definitely mentally. And I don't know about you, but a lot of things I feel like I can't do, they're physical, but there's such an element of like mental stuckness and resistance to doing these tasks. So when your brain feels like it's not only doing hard drudgery and there are going to be times of fun and you're going to treat yourself with like compassion and kindness and all of the good things, then you will have more capacity. This is like, that was a huge part of me managing all of this. If you are new here, my name is Sarah. I have 5 kids. I have several autoimmune disorders. My husband works all the time. He works nights, and I also create a lot of content. I have a very small business that I'm trying to make into just a regular small business. And I used to be in a place like a decade ago where I couldn't even manage just like normal life. I just felt overwhelmed by every single thing in my life. And I was working and taking care of 3 kids at the time. So things have gotten a lot more intense for me as far as things that I need to do time-wise and things that I need to have the physical capacity to do. And I am in a dramatically better place than I was a decade ago because I've just paid attention to some patterns. I've really decided to, validate myself and look out for myself instead of just pushing, demanding that I do more. And that's just it. That's the only tool I give myself is just do it, just figure it out. And if I can't do it, I'll just beat myself up until I do it. Those are a lot of thoughts for a very short amount of time. Okay, but anyway, let's get into it. This is something people ask me a lot about. If you have chronic conditions, I'm sure you're familiar probably with the spoon theory, which is that basically everything that you do is going to require a certain amount of physicality, or maybe mentality as well. But once you have used all your spoons, you're done. And I agree with that. I think that that's pretty accurate. But I also think that the way you look out for yourself and the way you treat yourself and some of the systems that you put in place can ensure that you have more spoons in a given day. I'm sorry if I butchered the spoon theory thing. I actually haven't. I know the basic concept, but I haven't studied it too deeply. But anyway, I talk a lot about capacity in my cleaning system, but it is something that I use in life. And it's this idea that I had, which is to give myself 3 options every day of things to do, and I would just pick which option I had the capacity to do. Because you and I both know that if you have chronic conditions, you do not wake up with the same capacity every day. And in fact, you can be going throughout your day and be pretty good on capacity and then all of a sudden plummet and you don't have anywhere else to go but the bed maybe. That's the basic concept of my cleaning system, and I have actually integrated that into my whole entire life as well. Let's get into it because I have a lot of different tools that I want to share with you, things that I've picked up along the way. You can make them your own and just apply them to your life, and I know that it's going to benefit you. If there are things that I don't address here that you have found helpful for yourself, please put them in the comments below, because as a community, I feel like we are able to share things with each other in a way that is so beneficial, because there are a lot of people in our lives who do not know what it's like to feel the way we feel, and who therefore can't really advise us when we're feeling down or we need strategies. So definitely put your comments down below so that we can all learn from them. These aren't really in order, but one of the first things that's helped me is learning how to do low capacity work on low capacity days. Let me paint a picture. This happens to me more times than I want it to, but I will, as I talked about earlier, I'll either wake up and I feel absolutely terrible for no reason, or maybe there is a reason, but I just feel absolutely gross. Or I'm going throughout my day and then all of a sudden I just don't feel good. In the past, those would have been throwaway days for me. I would have just bombarded myself with guilt about it and just berated myself as if I could do something to change how I felt. But then I got to a place where I realized that was pretty ridiculous. I had unrealistic expectations for myself, and learning how to live with that and not beat myself up has been a whole situation, but I've gotten really far. I don't think that I've gotten to the place where I'm ultimately all times compassionate with myself, but I'm pretty close. All right, so you've awakened and you're not feeling great, or you've gotten through a part of your day and all of a sudden you don't feel good, and you really, really need to either, sit down or lay down. So you do that. It is then time to evaluate what capacity you have, because you're already at a low capacity day where your time or your energy, your mental health is it's low, and you need to really kind of give yourself some rest that you need, or you're going to feel even worse. But there are times when all I can do during those moments is rest. I literally have to kind of be in a fetal position, kind of on the side, because it's usually when my back hurts really badly. And I can't really do anything else. I'm just exhausted to the point where lifting my arm feels like lifting cement. There are those times, and I'm not suggesting that you try to work at all or do anything productive during those times if you can help it. If you can rest and just devote that time to full rest, do it. But don't do it with a guilty conscience, because if you're just running over in your mind all the different things that you should be doing, you're not actually resting, you're actually stressing yourself out more so. But I've talked about that a lot. But if you're I need to sit down or I need to lay down, but I still have a little bit of productivity in there, there are some things that you can do. I call these couch care tasks. These are things that you can do sitting down or laying down. And they're things like putting together a grocery list, meal planning, ordering groceries online, paying bills, looking at emails, making doctor appointments. I've been meaning to call the insurance a million years to see if I qualify for the shingles vaccine, because you're supposed to be 50 and I'm not. That's something that is on my couch care list of things to do for the next day when I need to just lay down and I can't. So things like that, like calling the insurance, calling and making appointments. You can do digital declutter. You can go through emails and get rid of stuff or file things. You can also, get your physical mail and go through it and just put it into piles and maybe put a post-it for, recycling, trash, shred, file, whatever. There are a multitude of different things that you can do when you are just laying down, and they're productive. When you utilize your low capacity days to do these different tasks that you don't need to be, physical to do, it makes it so that on the days when you do have more physical capacity, you don't have all of these things stacking up because you've already done these things. They're out of the way. You've already handled it. It just creates a little space for you. So I feel like I'm the queen of utilizing nooks and crannies, whether that be working or doing low capacity tasks. I just try to fit in what I have the ability to do, and I make sure that when I don't have the ability to do those things and all I can do is rest, that I just fully devote myself to resting when at all possible. That has been very helpful. Okay, number 2 is to delegate. For a long time when I was married, I felt like I didn't work as much, so I should take care of more things around the house and I just wanted it to be super equitable. I put a ton of pressure on myself to do all these different things, and I felt super insecure asking for help or just saying, I need you to do this. Thank you. I could not do that. But I've grown up a little bit and I've realized some things that I needed to work on and deconstruct in my own brain. And that's what I do. My husband is very good at just doing what needs to be done. We've kind of developed a rhythm over the years, and we kind of pick up where the other one left off. We notice when the other person is, working a whole lot more or not feeling that great, and we just try to pick up the slack for each other. But there are definitely times when I notice more things that need to be done, and I also notice that he has been chilling. And I will say, instead of putting that on myself, I'll be like, hey, when you get a moment, these are the things that I'd love for you to get done. And he does, and it's fine. Now, I also have 5 children at home, and I try to be very careful with tasking my kids because A, I want things to be age appropriate, and B, I do not want my kids to have to do more than they really should have to do because I'm feeling bad. Sometimes they have to pick up the slack, but I don't want that to be the rule. So I do try to delegate to them things that I can delegate to them that won't, be overwhelming to them or just be more than a child should have to do. I have a 3-year-old. I don't ask her to do anything but leave the area that I'm working on, because if she's in the area that I'm working on, it will be destroyed. She does such a good job at going through and tearing apart what I've done. So that's why I do a lot of my organizing and decluttering and stuff when she is nowhere around. But she's just not a help. But I also have a 6 and an 8-year-old, and they do pick up their own toys and things like that. But they're also very helpful when it's like, I need little legs that are strong and that don't mind going up and down the stairs. They really help me a lot in those areas. So for instance, if I'm working on cleaning the kitchen and I have pulled together all these different things that don't belong in the kitchen, that's when I'll call my littles and I'll be like, can you take this here? Can you take this here? Can you take this here? They're happy to do that. They like to be a help. I am enjoying that time so much when they still enjoy helping. I also have a 12 and a 13-year-old, and they have their own chores that they do. But still, other than those chores, if there's something that comes up that I need their help with, I will ask them to do that. They and my 8-year-old earn an allowance for different chores that they do. That's kind of how it works for our family to delegate with the kids. I think it could be very easy to get into a headspace where we are working, and it's harder for us than for other people that maybe live around us. And we feel like they're watching us work. They're allowing us to do all this work. No one's helping me. That is a very difficult mindset to be in if you have not expressed yourself, because a lot of people are like you. They just don't know where to start. They don't know what needs to be done next. They're not processing what it feels like to be in your body and to be looking at all the different tasks. They just think you're moving because you want to, because that's usually how they do it. But there are also people who will not do what you ask them to do. They do not care. They will not put themselves in your shoes. They are not an asset to you. They are not someone who you can delegate any kind of task to. What I would say for those people, if that's your situation and you have people in your life that are contributing to the mess, but they're not cleaning up, I'm not going to tell you anything about your relationship with them, about how to navigate that, because relationships are also different and that's not my place. But I will say that if you are doing things for people who are not doing anything for you, maybe pull that back. Match your energy with their energy. If they're not going to do anything for you, but they expect you to do XYZ, no, I'm not doing XYZ. I used to do coaching, and I coached this one woman who was in that situation where there were, like older teens slash adult people and husbands that just expected her to clean and do different things. And we worked together and we realized, okay, she was not going to cook more than what she was going to eat. And she put out paper plates, and she took all of the dishes, packed them up, and put them away so that people couldn't use her dishes, leave them out everywhere, and expect her to wash them. They got paper plates, they got plastic cutlery. If they weren't going to clean them up, that at least they could just throw them in the trash, or worst case scenario, she could throw them in the trash, but it wasn't like a whole bunch of different things for her to do. So she just basically pulled back on the amenities that people in the house were using but not taking care of. It's a very tricky topic. It is not easy in the slightest, but I would definitely say match your energy with other people's energy. If you've made it clear that you need help, if you have, communicated yourself and they just disregard you, fine. Not in a playing games kind of way, but just you have to protect yourself. If you don't have a ton of energy to take care of yourself, and there are people who could take care of themselves or lighten the load and they're not, if you live alone, you can also barter with your friend. You have a friend who has more physicality than you, but that friend also has children and never gets a date night. Maybe you could say, hey, bring your kids over, we can watch a movie together, and you go out on a date, and then maybe you could help me with this task or that task, or maybe you have a project that's going on, and you can just kind of swap. I used to go to church, and they had different outreach programs where we would try to help in like practical ways with people who did not have a lot of mobility. So that's something that you could also do if you belong to a church or an organization of people. Even if you don't belong to the church, you could reach out to churches and be like, I'm really struggling. I do not have the physicality to do X, Y, Z. I need some help. Just see what's out there. I will put in the description as many as I can find, but I know a lot of it's just local. So you might just have to look for your area, like people who will come out and help you with your house or help you with things that you don't have the mobility to do. Do not be ashamed to ask. People do this for a reason, because they have an overflow of something that they recognize that you do not have an overflow of. There is a healing. There's kind of like a beautiful symbiosis when you are able to recognize that someone has a need that you can fill. In the same way that, perhaps you have a friend and not one person listens to that friend, and you listen to that friend. You give her that because you have that overflow of the ability to be empathetic. It is just as valuable as doing a physical task. So if you need to reframe it, it is not embarrassing or shameful to have people come into your home, even if it's overrun and crazy, and have them help you, because that's just not the thing that you have right now or maybe ever. And it's okay that other people have that, because you fill in for other people where they have needs too. And I know you can see, in the past, things that you have been able to fill in for other people where they had a need. Another tool is to have shortcuts. So if you are trying to get the kitchen clean every day and it's consistently not getting clean, pull out some paper plates, pull out some cutlery if you need to, and reduce that time that you spend standing up working in the kitchen by a good bit. If you do that, you can also use Ziploc bags for storing leftover food. That way, whenever you take the food out to warm it up, you can just throw the Ziploc away and you don't have a container to clean. There are a lot of different things that you can do, not just in the kitchen, but in other areas. In the bathroom, for instance, there are times when I have the capacity to do scrub things and really get in and do a really, detailed job. But there are a lot of times when I don't. I keep disinfecting wipes in all of the bathrooms. I have paper towels in all of the bathrooms for cleaning the mirrors, and I have disposable toilet wand thingy, so that I'm not in a situation where I'm asking myself, well, I can either do this task that's going to take 20 minutes and stress out my body even more, or I can ignore it and it'll get worse every single day. I don't want to be in that situation, so I have these little shortcuts around me so that instead of having to spend 20 minutes on the bathroom, I can pull out a couple of wipes. I can wipe down the counters in the bathroom. I can wipe down the faucets and, you know, the toilet plunger, everything that we touch with a disinfecting wipe. And, you know, I don't have to do the mirror, but if I have the capacity, I'll just, you know, wipe that down. And then it keeps the mess and the residue from building up. I found it super helpful to have these little shortcuts in as many areas of my life as possible. On the subject of shortcuts, I also implement quick and dirty cleaning. I wish I had a snappier name for it, but it is where I just get in there and I do the just barest bones job. I don't try to make it detailed. I don't try to, let me think of an example. Okay, the laundry, for instance. So, you know, in my mind, the ideal would be I would open the dryer and I would hang up all the hang-ups, I would fold up all the fold-ups, then I'd put everything away. Quick and dirty cleaning is like, nah, we don't have time for that. In that case, what I would do is I would pull out all of the things that need to be hung up and I would just kind of shake them and lay them out nicely on the counter or a chair or whatever so they don't get super wrinkly. Lay them out like that. And then with all of the things that need to be folded, I can do a quick fold or I can just throw them in bins because I have these bins for our, you know, non-hang up things. And then that's it. We don't need to put things away. We do not need to have a hang up that if I start this task, I have to finish it to completion. No, you don't. Do what you can. I have 2 points which are separate, but they should maybe be together, so I'll talk about them together. I have prioritizing and giving yourself a reality check. They are the same thing. Let's go with that. When you're looking at what you need to do in a day, it all can be just flooding in on you. Everywhere you look, you're seeing things that have to be done. No, it doesn't. There are things that absolutely do have to get done today. They do. For me, I know that everybody's going to need to eat. I know that the kitchen is going to need to get cleaned because that's, you know, pretty much my only non-negotiables. The kitchen gets cleaned every night. I know that I am going to need to read tonight. Do not mock me. It is how I get myself settled down. I do need to read tonight. I need to brush my teeth. I need to brush my kids' teeth. I need to get everybody ready for bed. Those are things that are like they must get done. Then there are some things that would be nice to do if I have the capacity to do them, but they're not necessary. Then there are things that, man, I'd love to do, but just in this season of my life, they're really not gonna get done. I was thinking about when I was dusting baseboards the other day, because I just was having a high capacity day. It was on my list and I just did it. My baby was small and I wasn't getting any sleep. I was thinking like, I would never in a million years have dusted the baseboards. I would never have done like these different things that it's great if they could be done, but they are just not for every time and season. So just kind of looking through things, it feels like an overwhelming glom, but in reality, there are categories, things that really must get done, things that it'd be nice if they can get done, and things that are just not for right now. I think that that's where the reality check comes in, because a lot of us with chronic conditions, we have pre-chronic condition expectations for ourselves. I know that I spent over a decade expecting myself to still perform to the same extent that I was. It didn't matter about the pain, it didn't matter about the fatigue, it didn't matter about anything. I just expected myself to do it all. Did I do it all? No. But I felt terrible about it. I felt so much shame because I could not do the ideal set of tasks that were in my mind. And when I did give myself a reality check, which didn't happen in one go, it was something that I just gradually had to, like, let me think about this. Does this actually have to get done? Is everybody actually doing this? Can we really think about like my time and energy as an actual issue and not as me being lazy? Those are the types of like little layers I had to peel to have reality check energy. You do need to baby yourself in the way that your body is telling you it needs. If you've broken something, I've talked to so many people who have TBIs and physical conditions, mental conditions where they cannot do very much at all. But that's as it should be. They're healing. There's something going on with them that is unresolved that needs resolution. And in those cases, you have to make peace with the fact that you can't do everything. Your house isn't going to be clean. You're not going to meet everybody's needs. You're not going to be able to do all the self-care things that you want to do. It's not an issue of trying harder. It's simply an issue of reality. I have 5 kids at home right now and a 3-year-old who was just the love of my life, but such a tornado everywhere all the time. And I'm trying to teach her, but it takes time and I don't have a ton of that. So we're gonna get there. But for the moment, my house is never gonna be totally clean. It's just not. There are always gonna be messes in different places. And if my expectation is that my home is totally clean all the time, I'm gonna drive myself crazy. I'm gonna drive everyone else crazy trying to impose that expectation on them. And I'm just gonna feel very negatively when the way I want my house to be isn't what I'm seeing. That is time for a reality check. I will not always have small kids. I will not always be in a situation where there is more to physically do than I can do. Maybe it will always be that way. But if it is, that's fine, because my purpose in life is not to keep a clean house, and I don't need to have that expectation for myself. I love things to be neat and orderly. It's very calming for me. It makes me feel very happy. But I had to deconstruct the parts of myself that was making me happy because I thought it was a reflection of me being a good person. That we need to do away with. When it makes me happy just because it feels calm and it feels like a soothing place to be, great. But it's just not gonna be that way for me right now, and that's fine. And I think there are some people who they literally can do everything productive that they wanna do in their life, but it's gonna require all of your time and energy. And that's not really what life should be about. That you're not gonna give one crap about that later on in life when you're reflecting on your years. You're going to wish that you had spent more time being kind to yourself and spending time with others and like developing who you are and what you enjoy and, you know, paying attention to what other people in your life that you care about, what they enjoy, and spending time with them doing that. You're not going to care about your house. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work on your house. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't, you know, have some routines in place, but the routines should be realistic and they should fit your capacity. Decluttering is my next to last tip. This is not something you can do all the time. It's not something you can really do when you're at low capacity. And I don't think it can be done in a chunk like a lot of us expect it will be done. You know, I know that I want to go into a room and I want to declutter every single thing in there because I'm afraid that if I don't, other things will migrate into there and make it messy, and I just want to do it all at one time. I cannot do that with chronic conditions. It's just, I will wear myself out for weeks if I try to do like a marathon cleaning or decluttering or organize, any of that stuff. I have to do little bits at a time, but I will say that it is very helpful. I have decluttered a lot in the past couple of years. I used to have a ton of stuff. I used to have so much attachment to stuff. I still do. I'm still working on it. But just decluttering what I felt able to let go of, or doing little bits at a time, just focusing on small sections, that has made my life so much easier, because whether you use it or not, whether you like it or not, you are taking care of stuff. It is taking up space, not just physically. A lot of times it's taking up mental space. So the less stuff you have, the less you have to deal with. And that is another way of kind of making sure that you're not using time and energy on unnecessary things. But that's just, you know, do that as you have the capacity to do it as you feel able, but it is important. The last thing that I want to talk about is saying no as a complete sentence. I am a recovering people pleaser, and I'm also a small child in a lot of ways. So if I get invited to do something, or there's an opportunity, or I just, something is brought to my attention, I'll just think, oh, I want to do that so much. I've had to really learn to evaluate where I'm at, and as much as possible, just say yes when I know that it is not going to be a huge detriment to myself, and say no if it is going to be a detriment that I can't really handle. Like there are going to be things that are going to be totally exhausting and you can't really get around it. A couple of years ago, my brother-in-law, he paid for the tickets and the accommodations to go to Disney World. I know that being in Florida's heat and humidity in June, and just the whole walking around the entire park thing was gonna be absolutely brutal. And it was. But it was just something that I was willing to do because, the way had been made clear for us. My brother-in-law was very generous to do that. It was something that my kids were gonna just absolutely enjoy and always remember. And I was willing to sacrifice some physicality for that. But there are other things where I've just had to say, I can't do that. Times when my kids want me to play, and I hate that I have to say no, but I'm like, I am resting. We can watch a movie together, we can pull toys onto the bed and play, but I'm resting. There are people who do not understand boundaries. They're gonna ask you to do things for them, with them, and they're not gonna be happy no matter what you say unless it's a resounding yes. So you can tell them no. You don't need to give them all your reasons, because people who really struggle with maintaining boundaries, they are not people who tend to be super empathetic, because they're thinking about what they want to do. And that's no judgment on that. It's just the way that it is with some people, but it has to be okay for you to be your own advocate. You have to be able to decide, this is my max capacity. I am not going to judge whether this max capacity is smaller than someone else's. This is what I need to say no to, when I need to say no, and I'm going to do that, with respect and kindness, but simply no. Simply no. That's it for today. This is probably going to be a longer video, but this is a big topic. I got a lot to say. I kind of just scratched the surface of this one, but I wanted to get this conversation started. I want to hear what you have to say. If there are tips and tricks that you use to kind of protect yourself and make sure that you are budgeting your time and energy in a way that does not exhaust you, in a way that is really being mindful of your capacity, definitely put them in the comments below. If you are completely new to me, I made the adaptive cleaning system, which is all based on capacity. I have, with deep cleaning and with maintenance chores, I have 3 different breakdowns of one whole task, so that if you're at low capacity, you can do something that matches that time and energy. If you're at average capacity, it matches that. If you're at high capacity, it matches that. So that is something, you'll see a lot of content about that if you're new here. I talk a lot about that system, and it has had a profound effect on me. It is what really caused me to go from treating my house and the different tasks that I needed to do in a way of like, what's my capacity? And now I really treat my whole life being mindful of my capacity. So it's been kind of funny that it was like this cleaning system kind of changed my life, and that sounds ridiculous, but it's because it went very far beyond cleaning and having a comfortable home. So I definitely have many videos if you're curious about that. I will see you next week. We will do the next part in this series, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.